Hello, horror fam, best friends, and ghoulish knights, and welcome to the second episode of Murders with Mertens. I am your host, Joe, and this is a podcast about horror, psychological horror, monster movies, body horror, the horror-adjacent thrillers, the supernatural, scary films in general. Each episode, I intend to sit down with a guest and discuss one of their favorite scary films so that we can gush about everything that makes it just so damned cool. So let's not waste any time in introducing tonight's guest, Mario Rivera. Mario, how the hell are you?
I'm doing well, doing very well. Damn fine, actually. Damn fine is probably the best way to describe it.
Yes, that's super appropriate. Super appropriate. Well, thank you for coming on tonight's episode. Tonight's feature is 1992's Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me, directed by David Lynch, written by David Lynch and Robert Engels. It's both a prequel and a sequel film to the Twin Peaks television series that sort of redefined episodic television in the early 90s. I mean, if we didn't have Twin Peaks, we wouldn't have the X-Files, no X-Files, then no Breaking Bad, and so on and so on. Mario, what's your history with Twin Peaks and this film?
Well, it sort of was a late love. It wasn't something that I knew very early on in my life. It basically, within, I want to say, last 5 years, is somehow I just kept seeing it on my Netflix queue and wondering, what is that show? Wasn't totally familiar with a ton of David Lynch films. And I decided, you know what? Let's try it. Let's just put it on. I've heard the title before, but I don't know what it is. And I put it on, and I was transported into one of the most craziest shows I've ever seen. One of the lived-in shows that I've ever seen. I was totally hooked and transfixed from episode 1 all the way through season 2. And then I remember hearing, not that, actually, you know what? Now that I remember, it was right almost before they were going to announce season 3 was when I started watching it. So that was sort of leading into season 3, which, getting to that last episode and you hear that one phrase blows my mind because they actually did it. And it's so crazy that the season's totally out and there was a movie and all that, like all these wonderful things that I got to learn as a late fan, that this history existed. I didn't even know there were books. There was 2
shockingly good timing with it all. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just felt deep within it, deep within the lore, deep within the characters. I mean, I even own Laura Palmer's diary. Like I have all these things. So I fell head over heels over this universe and into David Lynch films.
Nice. I was a kid in the original release. I would have been about 9 or 10, something like that. So little too adult for me at that time, I'm sure. I remember it being on. I remember, it being sort of a phenomenon and, just people constantly talking about it, the adults around me. Wasn't anything that my parents were into, but I just remember it being a thing. And then it was in undergrad, probably around like 99, 2000, something like that, where all of a sudden, a friend of mine, Brian, and I, we just fell into this hardcore. It was around the time that there was that initial DVD release of the first season that didn't include the pilot because of all these crazy rights issues, right? And, we watched this thing without having seen the pilot, and there's like the little recap in the beginning, but that's about it. And we're like, what the hell is this? This is just gold. I remember we both kind of liked David Lynch. We weren't, super familiar with all of his films at the time, but we'd seen our fair share. And oh, wow, it was time to go over to Hollywood Video and find a dusty VHS of the pilot, and then use what was probably Kazaa back then to find,
nice.
Some lovely rips with some kind of Scandinavian subtitles of the second season, because that was the only way that you were going to see the second season back then. And then going and renting Fire Walk with Me, what we're going to talk about here. Just seeing such a large tonal shift with the film, like what the hell did we just watch? And then over time, rewatching it all, and then, over the years reading about the film on the internet and just seeing that it was an absolute flop when it originally came out. People were just not enamored with it because it wasn't the show. It wasn't what they all thought of when they thought of Twin Peaks. At least some folks, they thought of, cherry pie and quirky characters and all the humorous bits, right? Which, I mean,
Yes.
the film has funny bits here and there, but oh, it is very much a psychological horror film.
Mhm.
If you take away the David Lynchiness of it, I mean, you have a terrifying film about a teenager who's being abused by her father for, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
It's some scary, dark shit. And, you get the fun David Lynch rapper, and it just gets even weirder then. It's wonderful. Was very, very excited to hear about the revival, the return or season 3 or whatever you want to call it. And just really surprised that they stuck with the darker tone,
Mhm.
which was great. I mean, it was a little obtuse. Yeah. It wasn't
Yeah.
exactly for every Twin Peaks fan, but wow, was it a fun ride. And I would just love them to do a little bit more. Not that I think we should really keep our hopes up for anything like that, but I don't know. What do you think? Would you like to see just a little bit more?
Part of me wants it to just always exist in my mind and always be, what I want it to be, what I want to remember it as. But at the same time, like, I can't help wanting to see more of Dale Cooper and see his adventures. And, where it leaves off, and I don't even know if you want to spoil it, it's a little crazy, but it's, that's an interesting thing that they did. And I want to see what ramifications does that have for the future of Twin Peaks in that universe, if it's the same universe.
Right.
Yeah. So again, all those things. And I personally, my personal thoughts on the whole season of season 3 was it definitely was a art of managing your expectations and patience. Because if you're able to do that, you got this euphoric buildup to something that was awesome very at the end of the series, as opposed to immediately being gratified of like, hey, this is everything that you wanted right away. It was really sort of like, here's a little spoon. The
Mm-hmm.
spoon will get bigger as the season goes on. And I as much as I was there week to week, like frustrated by finally getting it at the point in which you were given it, when you hear the music, then you're back in this world. And I thought that was, to me, the excellent surprise and exercise of season 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree. Still dark. Not a whole lot of Mark Frost in there, and a lot of that, but Mark Frost, I believe, was a part of it. Not in this movie, sadly, which
Nope.
is clear.
Oh God, yeah, it's very
Yeah.
much all Lynch all the time, and you know what?
Yeah.
That's okay. Didn't it come out like right around the time of Wild at Heart?
I believe so.
Yeah, that's a little bit more lighthearted. Still, a little dark, but yeah, it's good times. I need to rewatch that film. Actually, it's been quite some time, but
Yeah.
yeah. If you want your wacky road trip mixed with the Wizard of Oz, there you go. Good
There you
stuff.
go.
So just to reiterate how this format typically goes, we kind of use the plot as a guiding star for just going over all the fun shit that we absolutely love about the film. But we don't necessarily have to rehash the entire thing. Just starting things off, you get that wonderful, wonderful Angelo Badalamenti score with the nasty, nasty synths and saxophone. I think this is one of his best scores, personally. I don't know. I enjoy the hell out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the way that it somberly starts, because that is the mood of the film. It's not the Twin Peaks song right away. You're not really back in that world until maybe, I think it's like 20 to 15 minutes, even 30 minutes maybe, like into the world. You finally get back to Twin Peaks. You're in this other thing that is a statement on television in a lot of ways that a lot of people have brought up over the years, because the next shot you see is just a bat or something hitting a television, like that's the first thing you see. And now you're in David Lynch world.
Yeah. Yeah. We get Teresa Banks' untimely death.
Mhm.
And just kind of floating down the river there. Then we shift to this drug bust slash human trafficking situation. I don't know what's going on. There's all these screaming
Yeah.
children. Obviously, some of them were involved, but it's wow, that's very Lynch. But
Yeah, and
awesome.
obviously Lynch himself screaming into a random wall to a lady to direct these people. So yeah, we are immediately back to to oh my god, I forgot his name. I can't believe it.
Chris Isaac? No.
No. David Lynch's character,
Oh, Gordon Cole.
Gordon Cole. It was on the tip. I was gonna say
Yes.
Colson, Phil Colson. I'm like, no, wrong person.
That's
Oh
okay too.
man,
But Gordon Cole and get me Agent Chester Desmond. And I love that the cell phone is somehow tied into his car's horn.
yeah.
I've never seen anything like that. I mean, I remember the old bag phones. I remember, the crazy car mounts that people would have for a car phone that was dedicated to the car. But the fact that it's tied into the horn, just that feels like a little David Lynch type of thing, like the kind of weekend project that he would put together in his workshop, just because, along with making a little bench and staining it or something. I don't know, the shit that he seems to get up to on his YouTube channel, right?
Oh, God, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you get your typical awesome Gordon Cole stuff, all the screaming, and it's like he even lowers the antenna to see if he can lower the intensity of Gordon.
Oh, so good.
That's some good shit.
David Lynch, and specifically, maybe he's only in this movie for very little. He's mostly yelling, but I'll give it credit for season 3. I think he did an excellent job in season 3 specifically. But to have him just be the sort of like arbiter of like getting the direction started in the film, it's fun just to see him there. I really love that character.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we get this. There's something about the shot of the plane coming in to the little private airport. It's just so smooth and just beautifully shot, and it just looks so crazy good. And of course, Chet, he's got his own prop plane because why the hell not? But he's introduced to Kiefer Sutherland's character, who seems mildly out of it, but that's cool. And we get Lil, this strange woman in a blue dress, but we get the secret communique and the introduction of the blue rose.
Yes.
God, it's so weird. And, it's like, okay, here we're getting the David Lynch, like typical, grotesques and, quirkiness here. And it's like, okay, maybe this is going to be like, old school Twin Peaks, but it's about all we get. So
is this the first, and correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a little while since I've rewatched season 1 and 2 again. Is this the first mention of the Blue Rose?
I am not 100% on
Project
that.
Blue Book, but then this is the Rose.
Right.
Yeah,
And
it has more prominence in season 3, which I feel like they really explain it.
Oh, yeah.
They really break it down. So
it's their own X-Files, right? It's
yeah. With this, I love there's the scene where Chet is there, Dexter's talking to Patrick Swayze. Oh my god, my names are it's late, by the way. I just want to let you know it's late and I've been busy.
That's fair.
Keith Sutherland. And they mentioned the fact that you see the blue rose. And he's like, well, what is that? He's like, oh my god, I'm not gonna tell you. and I'm just like, okay. And it just keeps building that lore of like, what does that mean? Like, what are these little things that Lynch keeps adding to this world that just give us it texture? And he doesn't explain things right away. And it took 25 years to maybe hear that story, which I find fascinating.
Yeah. It's God, I love the little flashbacks back to Lil as they're explaining all the little bit. And it's like, okay, couldn't just slide a piece of paper across the, no, we're just going to act it out, play charades. Why not? So we get to, is it Deer Meadow?
I believe the police station. Yeah.
Yeah. And, wow, they are not friendly.
No.
But Chester Desmond's a fucking G here. He just storms his way in, basically breaks the deputy's nose, barges his way in and tells him, hey, this is what we're going to do. And the pushback just continues, and it's like, all right, I don't understand what's happening here. I get local law enforcement being standoffish with the FBI, especially in a small town, but also, really,
this is how I think I've heard, or if I've at least explained it to myself. Specifically, when they go to the diner later, as we're going to get there in a moment, this is anti Twin Peaks. This is everything is the opposite. The police station is the most unwelcoming place, but when you have Dale Cooper, who is also FBI, he's welcomed almost right away. He's almost part of the team. He gets indoctrinated into a secret society with the book boys.
All of a sudden, he's a bookhouse boy.
Yeah, exactly. So this is, to me, is just like the anti-Twin Peaks world, where everything is way awful, where what the antithesis of what Twin Peaks is, which is a wonderful place that has a lot of darkness with it. This is what if the darkness took it over in a lot of ways.
Yeah, so, you're absolutely right. And I have never thought about it from that perspective. That is super, super cool. God, yeah, everybody, even Jesus.
Yeah. So I actually asked you before we did this, if possibly talking about a little bit about the missing pieces,
sure.
Which Missing Pieces was all extensively, it's like a semi-sequel, but it's really just deleted scenes collected unsensically just in an order, and it's only really included like on DVDs as far as I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
But I do love there's extended stuff in this section of the film of just actually fighting the
right, there's like a test of strength or something like that.
Yeah. And it's so weird and wild, and there's a lot of scene of it in the Missing Pieces, but it is funny that they did obviously exclude that. I'm okay with it overall. It definitely helps with the pacing. But yeah, for sure, I find that funny that was something that was going to be included in this section of the film.
Yeah. It feels like almost like Lynch trying to say, "Hey, we've got some, we've got some Frost stuff here and there. We can sprinkle a little in." Nah, that's okay. There's the line about I think this whole building furniture included is worth $27,000, and it's a pile of shit. I think that he's just about right. In 1989 or 1988 dollars, I'm sure it was. Yeah. And then we get the really unsettling examination of Teresa Banks.
Yes,
and I mean, they pull her out of the freezer and her eyes aren't even closed. She's still, kind of frozen in a scream there. And the Badalamenti score, it just adds to the unease. It is all over the place in this scene. God,
it's unsettling. This is the first time we're seeing an unseen character that was mentioned in the original series. This is the first time we're seeing them, and it's the Rictus corpse. This is also, crazily enough, the introduction of the number of the letters in the fingernails, which is also something that has become a staple with the show, at least how with Dale Cooper. To think that this actually establishes with this character, I do find that pretty interesting. But yeah, no, for the scene, it is such an unsettling thing, and it continues on in David Lynch's career, having very unsettling moments of little information that we find out.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And then, like you mentioned, Hap's Diner. It's the anti-double R.
100%.
Yeah, but I kind of like Irene. I kind of like her. I kind of dig her. It's, I feel like we all
has for sure.
Yeah. Oh, we all have an Irene in our lives. You do. I know I do. I work with a few Irenes, but yeah, she's kind of great. But yeah, God, boy, you really got me thinking about the anti-Twin Peaks. It's
Haps is anti-R, and then there's a weird room that's associated to this diner that just has a light that keeps flickering in this weird way, and there's like strange people there.
Lynch loves his flashing lights. Absolutely.
Loves it. Sorry for the photosensitive people. This is probably maybe not the movie for you.
Maybe not. Maybe fast forward through that one. I don't know. That might make it worse. Not sure. But it's and then throughout this scene, okay, you're from Chicago, so you'll probably understand this reference. The what time is it gag where he makes him spill his coffee in his lap. God, that's like straight out of Bozo the Clown and Cookie, that kind of shit. There's little moments here and there with some of the phrases that are said and some of the little gags like that where I'm not sure what kind of world these feel like they belong in. It's other than possibly David Lynch, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's a little weird. I don't know if it's to establish just how old school Chet Desmond ultimately is. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's got the perfectly coiffed hair. It's just
I think it's like the sort of like the thing that David Lynch always describes to, which is like sort of this 50s culture, to sort of like too cool for school kind of thing. And that's definitely, I think, what he is specifically, because he is the cool one. And then you have the sort of fresh faced newbie that falls for everything. I do find their dynamic to be very fun, but at the end of the day, as much as they're in this movie, they're not. Like they're in this movie, but we're not. The movie has not even started yet. To be fair,
oh no, we're still in the first act, big time. Yes. Then we get to the what is it?
Fat Trout.
Fat Trout. Yes, the trailer park, and Harry Dean Stanton is not to be trifled with. They back away from that door when they hear him screaming because they finally read, do not ever wake me up before 9 a.m. ever. And it's almost like they're going to draw their guns because they're that concerned. But, he's just a little mildly hungover, majorly hungover. I don't know. But, yeah, he does him a solid. And so what's the deal with the super old coffee in this film? Because again, it's kind of the anti-Twin Peaks, right?
Yes,
because it's not a fresh pot that's put on just for the people as they're coming in or for the guests or anything. You got the coffee that was fresh 2 days ago. You got the Good Morning America that's got the sting of the 48-hour blend. It's they drink it, but you can tell it's almost like having a fish in the percolator, right?
Yeah, and I think like you're saying in Twin Peaks, the coffee is delicious. Damn fine, if anything. But when the only bad thing that happens is maybe a fish got in it. Exactly. There you go. I had mine too. I have an R&R diner. I have an R diner one, and
nice.
I'd bring it. But anyways, yeah. I just think that this is just another example of this trailer park being the other anti, like sort of like how the houses are. Like the real houses are all nice and fun. This is where the housing is the trailer park. I do find it funny though. I believe he ends up moving that trailer park in season 3 because the trailer park is actually closer to Twin Peaks.
Right. It's just on the outside of town, and that caught me a little off guard in watching the return for the first time. But I'm like, maybe this town really is that close. I don't know. But Harry Dean Stanton's great.
Which, real quick before we move on, because like I said, I dove in, got all the history. You watch this movie, you just think he's just a character. He's just the guy that runs this thing. In the return, you get a little bit more with him, which is fantastic. Mm-hmm. But he's more mentioned actually in the books, which I don't know if you've read or not.
I have not.
So the books, there's 2 books, right? There's one that was, and they're both written by Mark Frost, who was part of the showrunner for the TV show. The book is expanding the history before Twin Peaks in terms of like going all the way back to like Lewis and Clark era. In terms of like his connection with the Indians and the whole place like before Twin Peaks arrived, setting up a lot of obviously the lore that we know about the Black Lodge. In that, it also sets up the story of what's going on with the Log Lady and what's also going on with him, which they're connected. There was a story in there, and I'm not going to go too long because I know we have more to talk about this movie. But basically, they were abducted and they were brought back, and they have markings on their body, and the assumption is that it has something to do with the Black Lodge, and that's why the Log Lady is so connected, and he is also part of that connection. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, he's just a guy in a trailer park. No, he's actually pretty deeper in there, and there's a reason why he's in the return. Also, rest in peace.
Yes. Harry Dean Stanton, just gold in anything that he's in. So, yeah, sad. So Desmond decides to go back to the trailer park and do a little investigating, and he finds the ring and he goes to pick it up, and poof, he is gone.
Yeah.
Okay, weird. But we'll get into that later because boy, it comes back, and then we cut to Philadelphia and enter Agent Cooper. Just bringing those fun Twin Peaks vibes back from the TV show that I'm sure everybody at this point watching the film for their first time, especially if they're fans and not just coming to it cold, are like, oh, thank God. You know?
Oh, thank God. Yeah. It was definitely the response that I first saw this. However, it still has that David Lynch like filter over it because it's not happy Dale Cooper. It's very concerned and weird out Dale Cooper.
Absolutely. He is freaked and he's checking the security camera and then walking back into the hall and back and forth until he sees possibly his doppelganger and enter Agent Jeffries. And then he does his weird little run into the office and, Bowie. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Bowie's here.
Yeah. Why not? If we got to have some stranger enter, why not let it be Bowie? And we're not going to talk about Judy. No,
we are not going to talk about Judy, which now.
Yeah. Yes.
What?
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not explaining why my reaction is. You just got to watch the show. Just,
Absolutely. Yes. Once you get through that third season, it all has so much deeper meaning and holy crap. And then we get the introduction of Garmin Bozia and this is a Formica table. The Garmin Bozia, it's the first time we hear the phrase. Now it may just appear to be creamed corn, but no, it's pain and suffering, or is it pain and sorrow?
Pain and sorrow.
Pain and sorrow. Okay. So and if you remember from the second season, the Mrs. Tremond, she's given her meal from Meals on Wheels, and she does not want creamed corn, but her grandson, he takes care of that, right?
Yeah.
So yes, the Chalfonts, Tremonds. I don't know why the character name change. Maybe that's something in the books, but But still, I can't think of the actress's name. But she is so good.
I remember she was actually the grandmother in Happy Gilmore. Which that's what I first knew her for. So when I see her in here, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember you, and it's like semi unsettling.
Well, and then also the creepy innkeeper in the Mouth of Madness.
Yes.
Cool stuff there.
Yeah. Can we talk about that scene specifically, because that is when this is the first time we're seeing this room, and we don't know what this room is in context in this movie. We just see a bunch of people around this table, and obviously you see the Tron and the little boy. You see
Jürgen Prochnow.
Yeah. Oh my God. Just this interesting figure that is there too. Just doing this little dance or, whatever's going on there. And then of course, you have the arm and you have Bob. And this is the first time you see him in the movie. And they're like, okay, we're back. We're deep back in this world because we've not, this is something you don't see until the third season, which is pretty crazy.
Yep. And now cut back to Philadelphia and we get the word. First of all, Jeffries just totally vanishes as he's ranting and raving. He's suddenly gone. And also they get word that Chester Desmond is missing. Oh no. So Cooper heads out to the West Coast there and investigates the trailer park and probably. Oh no, absolutely.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Yeah. You're absolutely right. He does go to the trailer park now.
He wakes up Harry Dean Stanton. Unfortunately, he apologizes for it because he's the solid dude that he is. Yes. But he goes and he finds the space with the missing trailer from the Chalfonts, and then he looks over and he notices Desmond's car it's just covered with all this dust and dirt.
Yeah.
But we get the lovely reverse shot from inside, written in lipstick on the windshield. Let's rock.
Yes.
And the act one is officially donezo at this point. We are back in Twin Peaks, complete with Falling playing Laura's theme.
God, I can only imagine.
Like 45 minutes in or something like this at this point.
Some ridiculous amount. Yeah. There's still so much left of this movie. But I can only imagine, like, I got to watch season 3 in real time, which was an experience.
Yes.
I can only imagine real time of like the show ends, you're like bummed about it, and then this coming back, and then having that like, we're back home, like that moment. When I watched the movie, I was absolutely like, oh, thank God we're back at Twin Peaks and everything's gonna be a-okay. And then it starts that way, but then it starts to slowly creep back into the darkness, which is always a theme in the show.
Yep. You get Laura popping into the bathroom at school for a little bump before first period, and just weird interactions in the hallway with James, and then next thing you know, it's creepy, sexy times in the janitor's closet, and you can tell that these two, even if you didn't know what's about to happen, they're fucking doomed. It's. They're just she's
James and his dumb puppy dog eyes.
Yeah, he's only cool when he's playing the guitar, and that's about it. It's
if you could say that, yes.
Yeah, sure. maybe not.
I love it.
Well, as a Twin Peaks fan, you kind of have to love it, but it's
Good on you, James. Good on you. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. And then we cut to, Laura and Donna leaving school and Bobby having an absolute freak out.
I love you, Bobby, so much. Thank you. I missed him so much.
And I love what they did with him in the return.
Yeah,
I thought
absolutely.
It was such a fun turnaround for him. And anybody listening or watching to this, if you haven't seen that third season, what the hell is wrong with you? Seek this out. It's like Mario said.
Spoiling everything,
we're doing our best not to spoil that because that's definitely future spoilers from this point. But those first 2 seasons were totally fair game. Now, the fun thing about this interaction with Laura and Bobby that I love and it just was coming through and just waves as I was watching it last night. She's the fucking queen of his tiny fucking world. Yeah, and she's 100%. So got him wrapped around her finger. He's mad as hell and grabbing her really hard. And just you see his face just go from anger to this super forced smile that by the end of it, he means it, and then just walks away kind of backwards, which, kind of Black Lodge there a little bit, right? Reverse acting. And,
that
he's
weird
just
music. Yeah. That weird little affected, like rap, almost spoken word.
There's a lot of that spoken word rap kind of shit throughout this movie.
Early 90s. Like, what is happening here? That's crazy.
Oh yeah. But she just totally turned his word around in a moment. Laura is the one in control of her entire world, except for, one really horrible aspect, but everything else, and it's probably by design, it feels totally out of control with, everything that's going on with her, but, is able to basically,
you're nailing it on the head in terms of she's in control of the things that she can control in terms of her life. When there's things that you're right, there's the thing that she can't control, but she's using it so that way she could distract herself from that thing.
Yeah,
she's using Bobby, she's using James in a lot of ways,
using drugs to self-medicate, and
exactly.
Yeah. Oh God, it's so fucked. And
even Donna in some ways too, in my opinion.
Yeah. And as much as, I like Moira Kelly as an actress. I think she's pretty cool, but I miss Laura Flynn Boyle in this role, especially.
I have her.
Yeah.
I have conflicting feelings about Laura Flynn Boyle, mostly because I feel like she kind of ruined season 2 of Twin Peaks for me.
And that's what is in my notes here, that particularly season 1, Laura Flynn Boyle. I enjoy the second season when we get into the whole thing about when she's, touching and wearing Laura's stuff, how she starts acting like her.
Yeah. Not even that, Joe. It was actually because Laura Flynn Boyle was dating Dale Cooper in real life. And the show was in the clear direction of Dale Cooper and Audrey Horne, which gross, but hot, and gross, but awesome, was clearly the direction they were kind of going. And then Laura Flynn Boyle was like, fuck no. And then therefore that trajectory changed. And then we got Heather Graham. I'm not going to complain about Heather Graham.
No,
not one so bit. But it definitely was, I feel like, and they kind of dealt with it a little in a strange way in season 3. But yeah. But ultimately, I have a gripe against her because of that.
That's fair. There's a lot in that second season that's okay. We have to do a 22 episode standard season.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a lot of filler. Like James is going to go off on his little vision quest and shack up with this weird older lady and strange chauffeur. And just.
No, 100%. Yeah, there's definitely some things there.
Yes. So Laura pops home and, she's smoking a cigarette, drinking a drinky drink, and she breaks out the diary and, oh, fuck, there's missing pages.
Yes.
Laura, your life is unraveling. It's, and, so she has her little freak out with that and she runs to go see Harold.
Yes. This show, the movie by far, allowing characters that we get so little of to have at least a little bit more space and occupy in sort of like where they fit in people's worlds. And a lot of that is Teresa Banks in a lot of ways. Laura Palmer is not in the show primarily, except, a
couple of tiny flashbacks and
and the one thing, the one cousin character. But other than that, it's it's funny to say.
Yes, identical cousins. Yes.
Yes, she was on the show, but she was not on the show.
Right.
But Laura, so the fact that this whole movie is literally just fulfilling those, and I think that's awesome. And Harold's another one of those things. Just where does he fit in all this?
Yeah, it gives him room to breathe and flesh him out a little bit more. And so she has her little meltdown with him, and then it intensifies. And we get this great fire walk with me flash there, where she's in all the creepy dark makeup and her teeth are all yellow. And holy crap, it's intense.
Yes.
This is not your Twin Peaks television show at all at this point. And then we're back in Philadelphia, I guess.
Trying to remember. This is where the movie goes on this like journey where we get some things in Philadelphia, but we're mostly following track with.
Rosenfeld is just, questioning Agent Cooper and shout out to Miguel Ferrer. Yes. Also RIP.
Yes.
God, so many people made it back for the return just in time to pass away on us. And I mean, some of them literally dying as they were filming. And God, just he's great.
He's great. And this scene's really great. You're right. We are back in Philadelphia. We get a little bit more Dale Cooper, which is exactly, we want more, but we're only giving teases. We're only giving little slices.
Yeah. And it was kind of by design, right? Because he didn't want to be typecast in this role. So his role was greatly reduced. I mean, shout out to Lynch respecting his actors enough to, play ball with stuff like that. Everyone that I've ever seen interviewed about his process just gushes about how well he treats his stable of actors. And it shows. I think he really gets the best out of him. So we cut back to Twin Peaks, and Laura's helping out with the Meals on Wheels thing, and Mrs. Chalfant and her grandson show up and give her this
the music in the scene. So good.
Yes. It's a variant of the stuff from the examination of Teresa Banks, right?
Yeah. I think so.
And they give her this framed photo of this doorway, and it kind of looks like her bedroom door, but kind of not. And what is it that the grandson whispers something about? He's getting closer to the diary or something like that.
He's close to the diary. He's under the fan. He says something like that.
Yes. So it's can't help with Meals on Wheels. I got to go home.
I got to go.
Yeah, and what's her face, Manchinamic? She didn't even want to help with Meals on Wheels, but she's doing her thing. She's like, okay, but Laura does her little scamper off thing. I was watching Blue Velvet about a month or two ago, and it's very similar to Laura Dern towards the end of the film, where she just comes running, arms flailing out of the darkness, screaming. And it's kind of the same type of run. It's weird. But so
David Lynch has a trope. It's this weird, like flaily run thing. Yeah,
I guess so. So Laura gets home and gets to grapple with the awful truth by seeing first Bob in her bedroom running, getting out, and then realizing that it's her father leaving the house. And she's finally able to put two and two together there. And oh, fuck.
Yes.
It's your daddy all along. Cheryl Lee has the best scream ever, by the way.
Oh, yeah. The best scream, the best smile in terms of how beautiful and creepy it can be, depending on just a twinge of an eye. Like she is fascinating as an actress that whenever I do see her on screen, I'm always like, what is going to happen? Like if we had like the Batman which is came out, right? If we had like a movie like that, she would be my Harley Quinn in a second. She just has that interesting, like deranged smile look that I feel like that she could add to something because she just goes places, even in other, movies that I've seen her in.
Right. Yeah. John Carpenter's Vampires.
Kind of was the one I was thinking of, to be honest with you. I was like,
well, I'm glad we're simpatico with that.
Yeah.
So she finally comes home and Ray Wise just bringing the creepy here with the whole wash your hands bit. And where'd you get this? Is it from your lover with the necklace? And just pinching her cheek, and she's just staring and crying and just in total shock because of course she understands what's been going on all this time now. Her abuser is indeed her father. And Grace Zabriskie coming in there and, she doesn't like that. How would you know what she likes?
No, man, shout out to both Ray Wise and the actress that plays Mrs. Palmer. They are some of the most unsettling actors, and talk about great screams. She has also one of the world time screams that got me into the show. Like at first I laughed at it, but the more that I've seen it and understand it, it's terrifying. And this just adds to that. If you watch this out of context of the first episode, you understand the sort of horror that is kind of going on, the subsiding horror. Specifically, if you know the fact that I think it's revealed in the first season that she was kind of being like semi-drugged during this time.
Yeah. I think both mother and daughter were being drugged. And you get that creepy scene of Leland basically forcing her to finish this glass of milk.
Yeah.
And then when the fan comes on, it's go time, right? It's I also think after this creepy dinner scene, Leland is starting to come to terms with the awful truth too, because is this when he starts getting the flashbacks to Teresa Banks at the motel?
That is much later in the film, actually. Okay. But I'm not sure when that starts, but you're right. It's literally like this terrible, creepy, like, dinner scene. And then it's almost like, and the way that I've always interpreted it is like Bob sometimes lets Leland go off the leash just so he can feel that pain and come to those realizations of like what you're doing. Like that's I think the thing with Leland is that I think he does know what he's done and has consistently done since she's 12. But Bob is only holding him back so much so that way he can let him go to have those feelings. And that happens in that scene when she goes in, right? He talks to, he has this like, and there's a moment where she says, "Dad," and you're just like, she's happy that it's her actual dad talking to her, but still she's absolutely terrifying. It's absolutely just, it's David Lynch has made a lot of movies. This one's probably the one that has affected me the most in terms of what the message and things that are happening.
So many of his films, they lean towards the spooky, the creepy, but this one is absolutely straight up horror film. It's just without question. And there's maybe a reason why I watch this nearly every October. I don't know. It's And it's a tough watch, to be fair. I mean, considering the subject matter, but it's a nice little, 2 hour plus way to get back into Twin Peaks without all the commitment of jumping through a complete rewatch, which I need to do sometime, especially the return. But
No, for sure.
yeah. So it's nighttime and she wakes up and the photo that she has hung on her wall becomes a doorway to the Black Lodge. It's okay. And the man from another place, he's there, of course, and he never fails to creep. And now the ring comes back. This weird little, green stoned ring, and Cooper's there too. So, I brought up very early on, okay, this is both a prequel and a sequel because time really has no meaning within the Black Lodge. No. This is Dale from the end of the second season after he has been trapped there, warning Laura not to take the ring. And
yeah,
I find it interesting that Dale is not in reverse. His footsteps are clearly not in reverse because you can always hear the reverse footsteps from the other characters. But of course, she takes the ring and wakes up. And it's your favorite, Annie Blackburn, bloody faced in bed with her.
Yeah.
It's
that. Oh my god! When I finished season 2, and I watched this movie, and I was like, "Oh my god, they're actually continuing that story." I was like, "Oh my god, thank you for something." And I was wondering what was that about. But I love that fact that it's trying to fill in those details of the end of season 2, as well as details that have led into that, which of course was the diary. And so that was a cool way of tying all those things up. Do you want to know Annie's fate actually? Since you didn't read the books,
I wouldn't mind. And boy, if you've made it this far into the podcast, you are probably some type of a Twin Peaks super fan as well. So by all means, go ahead and spoil that a little bit.
Okay, so this takes place in the second book, which is a book that takes place after the return. So this book is written actually by the character that I think Crystal Lee plays. It's the new detective that joins them on the Blue Rose case.
Oh, okay.
She's the model friend of David Lynch. It's written from her perspective. Actually, both books are. She's actually a character that Mark Frost created, I believe. But what is cool is that we get little insights of what happened after all the characters, including characters you don't see in the return. So even like Leo, you actually get stuff about him too. But I'm going to talk about specifically Annie because Annie to me was a really great character that they introduced, and you just don't get enough of. Her sad backstory with this is obviously she survives at the end of season 2, but she's catatonic and also is very much in a troubled state of hurting herself and has always been there. And she doesn't say anything except for she says the words, I think I'm fine is what she says, which is fucked up because if at the end of season 2, doppelganger Dale Cooper is saying, "Where's Annie? Where's Annie? Where's Annie?" And she says, "I'm fine."
Wow.
I
gotta get my hands on these. Yeah,
really good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh God, where am I here? Oh, we cut to a little. Well, no, she wakes up from all of this, or maybe just falls back asleep and wakes up, and the ring is gone. And you get the fun little whooshing noise as she opens her hand. It's very much disappeared. And then we cut to a Leo Johnson scene. He's in this movie like twice. And this is like the first bit where he really starts abusing
Shelley?
Yes, Shelley. For some reason, I can only think of the actress's name tonight.
Me too.
But they're kind of interchangeable, so that's okay. So wow, that's kind of brutal. And of course, Bobby, needs a little more blow. But not just to sell. Of course, it's because Laura's out, fresh out of blow. And well, how are we going to pay for this? Well, it's time to go sell yourself a little bit more, I guess. And we get this, log lady blessing outside the roadhouse, the Bang Bang Bar. And I think this is the only bit that the log lady is in the film. She's probably in the missing pieces. I can't remember. But
I don't know what the scenes are, but you're absolutely right. This is the only time you see her in the film.
And it's, again, obtuse random shit, but it's still just haunting and beautiful. And Laura's face while she's listening to all this, you just want to give her a hug and tell her it's going to be okay. It's God.
She's just a baby that needs guidance. That's literally what it is. It's just she's just getting corrupted by this world. But shout out to the log lady. You're not in this movie a lot, but you are an essential part of Twin Peaks and my interest in the show. And as a person who's worked with David Lynch almost her adult life, which is pretty crazy, all the way back from Eraserhead.
Yeah.
And shout out, the last season absolutely nails it. And such a send off.
Oh God, yeah. And then she steps into the roadhouse, and we get this heartrending Julie Cruz performance, intercut with Laura selling herself. It's Questions in a World of Blue, which I guess is sort of like the unofficial theme song to the film. But oh God, it's so good. It's and so you got Jacques directing a couple of bozos over to her, and then Donna shows up. And okay, what the hell are you doing? Right? Yeah. What the hell are you doing, Donna? I know you're trying to save your friend here, but, okay. So it's time to take off and go to Canada and the Pink Room. So yeah, I mean, I guess a lot of people called the Black Lodge the Red Room, right? Because of the curtains, and you get this odd little offshoot of it, and oh my God, it's loud, and
it's so loud. Have you ever seen the show Euphoria, perchance?
Oh God, yeah. It's so good.
This is Euphoria before Euphoria, in the sense of the absenceness of the sound is overtaking everything, and you're just sort of being drawn in, and it's so oddly
just the fucking vibe. Yes.
Yeah, just a fucking vibe for way too long, but also not long enough. You're just in this. Yeah, you're in the scene. You're in this scene,
and of course it's subtitled because it has to be subtitled because there's no way to tell what the hell's going on, and you get these odd little phrases, and everybody's just
fucked.
Yes, I am the Great Went.
Shout out to Jacques.
Yeah, Jacques Renault. Yeah. Yeah. So, they're passing around their drinks, and they spike Donna's beer, and just shit kind of spirals out of control. We get Ronette Pulaski showing up and reuniting with Laura. Somebody that we only really saw in a coma in the first season, and kind of in and out of coma in the second season. But, cool to reconnect. And they have their talk about One-Eye Jacks, the brothel they used to work at together, and, have their weird little times. And here's where Donna picks up Laura's sweater off the floor. And this is, that touchstone to the second season where her using Laura's stuff just makes her act like her. It's like,
welcome to the next guest of the show, my cat that loves to jump on my keyboard.
All right. Welcome, cat that likes to jump on Mario's keyboard.
There you go.
So yeah, that weird touchstone, and Donna is just out of control. And Laura sees what's happening and has that freak out moment. And Jacques, to his credit of being an absolute scumbag and, sort of villain in the series, he scoops up Donna and takes care of her. And then one of the most beautiful tracking shots of the entire film, the slow track of the cigarette butt and broken glass and beer bottle littered floor with the band continuing to play. God damn, it's cool. There needs to be more gifs of that, but I haven't found them. It's so good. Oh my God, there's so much of this film that's so good, and this film is so ignored. I'm sorry.
No, absolutely. I think it visually is probably one of the most stunning things I've seen. David Fincher's David Fincher. Oh my god, David Lynch is done. Sorry, it's been a very Batman-filled weekend.
Yeah. I'm sure. I'm kind of there with you as far as being completely wiped out from the week. So this is a fun release for sure.
For sure.
But we move on then to the next morning, and Donna rather is having kind of a rough morning, a little bit. Laura's kind of used to it, so she's faring much better.
Time? Okay.
Yeah, that's cute. Yeah. And then, well, it's time to go to breakfast with mom, honey. Leland just walks right into Donna's house, and I know he's friends with her father, who, of course, we don't see in this film. I can't think of the actor's name, but Doc Hayward is fucking great.
Yes.
But then they drive off in the car, and she is not wanting to be there, of course, because everything. And, well, okay, so Leland picks up Laura, and they're driving off to breakfast, and One-Armed Mike comes out of the blue, and he's got his weird, strange camper, and he's circling them and shouting and screaming. And here's where Laura notices the burning engine smell before he really starts revving the engine, almost to mask the fact that the smell is coming out of nowhere. And of course, the burning engine oil signifying, I guess sort of the crossover between, these hosts and their malevolent spirits that are kind of controlling them. I can't remember what Mike is exactly screaming at them, but you definitely see the ring on his finger there.
Yeah.
And then things kind of spiral out of control with Leland.
This is actually when we then get the flashbacks.
Yes. Yeah. There's, the killing of Teresa. There's, I can't remember if there's a flash.
There's the blackmail. It's them in the motel where he sees Laura there with Teresa and stuff like that.
Okay. Yep. And he has this freak out about chickening out. And okay. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So Leland is starting to spiral big time here. And then we just cut tonight with Laura and Bobby taking their little walk in the woods. Booze and Blow and Deputy Mike, I have in my notes here. Laura is just completely off the rails. Just
out of it. Completely out of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Bobby's barely keeping it together, just keeping her under control and trying to enjoy himself. But also it's like, okay, we got business to deal with here. And Mike's the guy that it was hinted at, of course, in the earlier seasons that Bobby kills.
Yeah, it's just mentioned in passing as something that could have possibly have happened or a rumor, and straight up you actually see it. Now, this was the first time he actually kind of noticing in a lot of ways that it was sort of self-defense. I always thought that he was murder, but it's actually the guy pulls out the gun first, and Bobby, in response to defend himself, shoots. He does give off that last crazy shot in the back of the man's head.
Yeah.
But you could symbolize, that's the guy getting up to shoot him again. So there's that. But yeah, it's this scene is crazy. When I saw this scene and the fact that it connected to that story, I was blown away of like, oh my God, they're actually following up on that. I actually thought that was just a thread.
Well, don't worry, because I think it's very clear that Bobby can't believe it himself. So he is shocked at what he did. And Laura's just laughing her ass off. So let's, grab a couple of twigs and, a couple of pine needles, and we'll sprinkle them on top of the body. And we got to bounce. So obviously this was, supposed to be somebody tying up some loose ends with Bobby and Laura, but it didn't exactly work out, did it? And then we get James the next day swinging by the Palmers at like the worst possible time. James, get a hint here. Get a clue. This is not good. This will not end well. She does not want you here. And kind of basically tells him as much, right? I think that's no. We get one more bit of James much later on here, and it's
I think
the big
the
stuff.
best, yeah, the only scene to me in this movie that is the best James stuff, and maybe the best James stuff ever, personally, is actually seeing him. And we'll get there, but
Yeah,
I think that's the best part.
all the stuff that is described in the series
Yes,
that we never
yes,
actually see. Yes, yes.
yes.
But before that, we get Milk and Cookies and Bob.
Oh,
So yeah,
yeah.
this is the tilting of the glass with Laura's mom, and
Mhm.
then mom wakes up with how to speak German on her chest. It's little light reading before bed, right? And well, we said we weren't going to talk about Judy, but we get to see Judy, perhaps.
Perhaps,
Yeah.
perhaps.
So if you've only seen this far into the craziness of Twin Peaks, it's just a big white horse that shows up in the middle of the bedroom. I don't know who's cleaning up after that, but it's one of those weird ones where, if you've seen this film for the very first time, or, I know a lot of people that saw this film without having seen any of the TV series. They just
Yeah.
saw it because it was weird David Lynch shit and they wanted to see more weird David Lynch shit.
Mhm.
Big mistake on their part, of course, because wow, you can't watch this film without being somewhat
Yeah.
initiated into Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
But
There is some more meaning, I would say, to the horse specifically. In this instance, it is the fact that sometimes can symbolize drugs.
yeah,
In a lot of ways.
yeah,
And so yeah,
yeah.
the fact that
Horse
that is
slash
like
heroin. Yeah.
well, yeah. So the
Yeah.
fact that she's seeing a horse in her living room is somewhat of a like on the nose slash,
Could
some
be,
connection.
it could be.
Yeah, to the Black Lodge as well.
Yes, yes. So this is where we, get the flashing lights again, which are, big David Lynch trope, and Bob crawling through the window and on top of Laura, and she starts to see him intercut with Leland. And do you think it's possibly all the drugs that she's on, or just her growing awareness of the situation, or possibly some kind of a combination of the two that are finally allowing her to see Leland in this moment?
I think it's actually the combination of the two, because if for our assumption that she has not know who Bob was until this week, which would allow that possibly that the drugs have always been there and always been subjugated to this family,
Mm-hmm.
and that has been like a filter, a sort of way to cope with it. And but with the understanding of what's actually happening and connecting the dots, you're kind of the veil is slowly falling down, and that's why this week is so important in Laura's short life, sadly, is because this is her last week and things are being revealed to her. So yeah, I think it's a sort of combination. Yeah, this scene is probably one of the most, we talked about earlier, well, traumatic scenes. This is the one. This is the scariest scene in the movie.
Yeah.
It's the most disturbing. I remember watching it with a companion at the time, and the response on their look was not the greatest, but they understood what was happening because they watched the show with me as well. So, okay. But they, weren't happy, but they understand as a part of the content of what was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, rape scenes are, they are difficult. I think it's the kind of thing that can be filmed in not a really great way, in that they're like super exploitative or almost played for thrills or something like that. And I think that this film does a good job, and to his credit, David Lynch does a very good job of not going in those directions with it. It's more of just the absolute horror, and thankfully, a lot is left to the imagination as well there too.
Yeah. Thankfully for that. I mean, the few times in which we hear just Bob's voice in the movie, and not just this scene, but I think early on as well, we hear him say things like, I want to taste through your mouth, which I find fascinating, because obviously the whole point is he wants to inhabit Laura. But yeah, no, fucking traumatizing.
Yes. So then all of a sudden it's the next day, and well, it's evening the next day, and Laura's kind of starting off her final evening. You know, she's
Yeah,
smoking and doing blow and hanging out in lingerie, and she's already just gone. She
just
is,
gone.
yeah. And she happens to look up, and there's this painting that we didn't bring up yet, but it's hanging on her wall near where she hung the photo of the doorway. And it's this
Yeah,
angel kind of tending to children around a
yeah,
table.
yeah.
And
Actually,
this angel disappears from the painting. And I'm sure that's some kind of on the nose symbolism of, guess what? Your guardian angel is gone. You are fucked, kiddo.
yeah. I personally, yeah, and it connects. Actually, we didn't bypass it. It's just that it's just part of dialogue. But there's a scene very early on in the movie where Donna and Laura are talking, and they're just sort of like in the living room or whatever.
Mhm.
And Laura has sort of like a monologue about how she believes that the angels have left her. She says it like directly, and it's kind of terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
And this is sort of like the actual like visualization of like they're gone. This is it. Like nothing is coming for you.
Uh,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
God.
But did we get a good semi thing
Oh,
later?
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. It's
yeah. Is it the greatest? No, but
no,
it's
but
good.
yeah, yeah. It's a somewhat uplifting bit in a lot of darkness and blood and death.
Yes.
But so James is just obviously too simple and good for Laura. I have here in my notes, at least as she sees it. But you know, they're on their little date in the woods, and she's just not having it. She's like, it's time to go. And then she does see something. It's a peep of Dale Cooper from 25 years in the future lurking in the woods, because they retconned the shit out of that later on. You know,
Oh my
future
God,
spoilers here for the return, but
so awesome though.
I love the fact that they,
Oh my God.
let's just explain who this random, shade is in the darkness. Yes.
Mhm.
And we get that classic Cheryl Lee scream, right? And okay, it's time to go. And they get to the intersection of, what is it, Beechwood and Sparks.
Yes.
And
Found on my new album.
yes, there you go. And then, this is all the stuff that was described to us by James and, in the series. And she just falls, she eats shit off of this bike. That did not look like fun on that pavement.
No.
But, she screams that she loves him, kisses him, and runs off into the darkness. And then he does his best impression of, like a James Dean rebel biker by revving the engine and waiting for the light to turn red before peeling off. And it's the last we see of James. And she walks 50 feet into the woods, and there's Leo Johnson and Jacques and Renette on Leo's Corvette, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Cool.
Sure.
It's almost like she planned that.
Yeah,
That was crazy.
yeah. You didn't have to walk very far, and it's a good thing because you're walking in the woods in heels, I guess. And then we get to, I think it's Jacques' cabin, right?
Yeah, Jacques' cabin with Leo,
Waldo, and
yes, shout out to Walt. I forgot.
Yes, the minor bird. Waldo likes to watch. Waldo's a little freak.
He's a biter too. Weird.
Yeah. So apparently Jacques and Leo decide now's a good time to try some light bondage, and things start spiraling out of control a little bit. This is where we get, I have in my notes here, Waldo likes to watch, but Leland also likes to watch, because we get his face in the window, and it's full on Leland. It is not even Bob at this point.
Yeah.
And Jacques goes outside for some air, and he gets a glass or a bottle or something smashed over the back of his head, and he's on the floor. And Leo, I don't know what's going on with Leo, but he's had a bit too much. So he's kind of stumbling around, and Laura's, begging to be untied. And he steps outside, sees Jacques, and he's like, oh, fuck.
I gotta get the fuck out of here.
And he does. And you get the sound of the Corvette peeling off on pavement, even though it's on dirt. but that's okay. I still buy it, but
this movie is in the Criterion Collection.
yes, yes, and I think there's a little rumor that Lost Highway is soon to be.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. Oh, I would kill to have a nice edition of that.
Yeah.
So we get, Leland here. Surprise. I'm trying to think Leo drives off. Then Leland walks into the cabin.
Walks in,
and Laura's like, "Oh fuck, it's Dad."
Freaks the fuck off. Yeah,
and then we get one of those cool David Lynch running through the woods shots where we have, the flashlight on the path ahead, but when it cuts back to them, the flashlight is actually on them, and it's weird.
I think they're running in place in real life, but the idea is they're running. But yeah, that's of course them in front with Leland in the back, just having this crazy face. Shout out to Ray Rice's expressions, because he can go from sweet to absolutely demented in a moment.
Oh yeah, he's losing his goddamn mind in this scene.
Yes.
Very really losing his mind. And Mike shows up and he tries to help. He's banging on the rail car for somebody to open up, and Ronette, throughout everything that's going on, somehow her bonds have separated. And
I wonder how.
But
looks like she's the only one that had a guardian angel behind her.
I guess so. Stop bogarting all the guardian angels, Ronette. God damn. But Mike doesn't quite get the door open, but Leland smacks her out and basically just drops her out the rail car. So
yeah, she hits the ground pretty hard.
Oh God, yeah, she eats shit there. And you get Bob kind of cutting back and forth between Bob and Leland, and he slides a mirror in front of her so she can see herself, and she sees his face in her, and oh God. But she's able to deny him, basically sacrificing herself in the process. And then we're back in the Black Lodge. And, Bob is not happy. And neither is, the arm, the man from another place, because he wants his Garmonbosia. And we're able to get it. Basically, Laura's death is splattered across the floor, right? With that lovely shot. And
I love the reverse of Leland floating in the air, which is he's the vessel,
right?
Blood on Leland, removes it. The next shot, it's gone.
Yep.
And then he throws it. So cool. Actually, such a nice subtle thing.
Yeah.
Before we continue forward, I do want to talk about that ring, because I've always been semi-confused about how it works, because when people use it, no good thing ever happens to them, seemingly. However, though, in this instance, this is where I think there is some good, but it comes at a cost. And this is sort of the reason why I feel like Dale is actually telling her not to take the ring in a lot of ways. Is actually this moment specifically, because if she takes the ring, right, she dies. However, if she doesn't take the ring, Bob gets her. Bob inhabits her and takes over and gets to do whatever Bob wants and live whatever Bob life that he wants in Laura. And Laura does not want that. And I feel like that is her victory. Why I feel the ending is so strong in this movie is because she denies him.
Yes.
And she takes ownership and control of life over him finally. This is her finally winning, even though it is at the cost of her life. But that's why she puts it on. And then, he can't do anything, so she dies. What is your thoughts on this ring specifically? Because I always found it, confusing.
It is very confusing. And I'm sure purposefully so. But it's, I feel like people that are, or entities from the Black Lodge don't have issue with, possessing the ring. I mean, obviously we get one-armed Mike driving around wearing it, so that's not an issue. But it comes back, in the return as
it does
well, and it's confusing there too. But I think I think you're right. I think it's just an object that offers protection at great cost. And well, obviously very great cost, because now Laura's spirit is essentially trapped in the Black Lodge with the good Dale.
Yes.
And we see her corpse floating down the river to the Martells, wrapped in plastic. And
shout out. I love you, Pete.
yeah,
Love you so much.
yes. And we get credits over a crying and smiling Laura. And, she's basically victorious, but like you said, over with the cost of her own life. It's
finally seeing that guardian angel in the Black Lodge.
Yes, which it's the most low rent angel costume ever, but it's that's kind of Twin Peaks too. But yeah, credits. That's Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me.
And it's fun. They don't say the poem at all in the movie, right?
No, I don't think they do at all.
You just say Fire Walk with Me, which
a few times, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Hey, it's a fucking ride.
It's a fucking ride. It's a journey. It's sort of this. It's not. How can I describe it? It's all the things I would not describe Twin Peaks, but it is Twin Peaks. Like it's this joyous, wondrous place that has darkness on it. This movie is just pure darkness. Mm-hmm. However, there are definitely moments of this woman taking control. Like the end result is this woman finally gets to take control of her abusers and her life, and takes it on her own hands. At, like we said, at a great cost. I think this, and I made joke about Euphoria of like this. To me, this is like the before Euphoria. Right. It's sort of like dealing with your demons and overcoming them in a lot of ways. So yeah, I as so different and drastic it is to something that I find so endearing. Mm-hmm. I do think that this is still a pretty essential element of those stories, because we don't hear Laura majority of the Twin Peaks series. This is the one time she gets to shine, and it just absolutely crushes it, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Cheryl Lee's movie for sure. She doesn't really enter in for a good, half an hour, 45 minutes, but she owns it from there on out. And amazing performance. And like you said, we finally get to see all this darkness and all this horrible shit that's just alluded to throughout the, 50s fueled wonder of the original TV series, I guess. And then we get the return later on, and, future spoilers and all, but we learn that Laura is potentially so much more, kind of the anti-Bob, I guess. And there's that. I don't know if that was one of the bits of the return that I really enjoyed, but you get that wonderful episode in the middle that, you basically have a 15-minute long nuclear explosion and all sorts of, art house David Lynch trippiness in that episode, including a performance by Nine Inch Nails. But it's that's some weird shit. and absolutely warrants another rewatch. I got to get down to that. Mario, any final thoughts of Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me?
Well, if you've gotten this far, obviously we've spoken a lot of the little things, and this movie is predicated on the great mystery that is the season 1 show. However, I still think that the show is greater than its mystery. It's the soap opera. It's the characters. It's the mystery. It's the world building that they have. The little history and secrets that lie within this small little town. It's a blast. So if this movie was anything to revisit, definitely, please, I beg everyone to enjoy the show, enjoy the return, and then, for a little light reading, which it's really not actually, check out the books.
I'm sure it's fairly dense unless you're a dedicated fan.
Learn how Lewis and Clark connects to the foundation of how Twin Peaks existed, and all this other fun stuff with the mountains, and nice. real good stuff. But ultimately, enjoy. That's all I can say.
I can't wait. I do need to check those out. If you'd like, Mario, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me over there at Point in Progress, youtube.com/Point in Progress, twitch.tv/Point in Progress. I also do videos over at Tech Raptor. I'm not sure when this video will go live, but you know what? I'll say it here. I have been promoted as the top lead over there on the video stuff. So I run the show. So there'll definitely be fun things coming in the future, especially opportunities that I can bring now to other people that might be joining me. So very excited about that. And there's also some other crazy stuff that we actually haven't even announced yet that I'm very excited about that's going to happen very shortly. So stay tuned to Point in Progress on Twitter as well. And I'm also at Nightmute City.
There you go. Thanks, Mario. I appreciate you jumping on. This has been a lot of fun. And we'll love to do something else sometime. But for now, this has been Murders with Mertens, a horror film podcast. Thank you for letting us tickle your ear holes. If you would be so kind, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I'll be back soon enough with another episode. But until next time, stay spoopy, everyone.
Let's rock.